Stop jumping around! Okay, now it's the ting-ting thing. Cringe. Cringe fight. They should rename you to Cringe. Yeah! Alright. Swing, swing. Oh! The damage! So, I recently picked up Monster Hunter World, and I streamed it for 7 days straight. And of course, I did play it off stream as well, because why not? I would have to say one thing. It's a great game, but not without its flaws and deliberate bad game designs. This video is from someone who has never played any other Monster Hunter game to come into this game as a complete novice with no sense of direction to become someone who now understands the nuances of Monster Hunter games. Kinda, not really, still learning. So, how did this journey begin? Story time. I actually did play Monster Hunter World once back in early 2023 for a maximum of 2 hours, and most of the time was spent creating my character, to then figuring out what weapon to play, to then learn that rebinding keybinds for a keyboard and mouse player would be annoying, so I plugged in my controller, to then have my clanmates from another game nag on what weapon would better suit me and why I shouldn't do certain things. I got annoyed and uninstalled. Many moons later, Black Myth Wukong came out, and I had a huge blast playing that game. Combat was god tier. The spells were slick yet simple. World, everything was something I got lost in. Finished that game twice. And after that, I felt empty. Nothing to satiate my hunger for another action RPG. I reinstalled some mods on Witcher 3, played it for 10 minutes, Alt F4'd, booted up Skyrim with my 296 gigs worth of mods. Nothing. Reinstalled Borderlands 2 using the new Snowbound mod. That was kind of fun. I even streamed it till I saw a couple of people in my chat who were talking about a game that had to do with fighting monsters. And that piqued my interest, so I asked them about it, and there it was, Monster Hunter World. At first, I got PTSD flashbacks from what happened a year back, and didn't really want to recall that. However, they insisted I try it out. So I said, you know what, I'll think about it. And after that stream, boom, out of nowhere, a Monster Hunter Wilds trailer video of the Charge Blade weapon was sitting on my YouTube front page. And I was like, is Google listening? So naturally, I clicked on it. And that was it. I knew what I wanted to play and how I wanted to play. And thus began my journey of Monster Hunter World. What's good, folks? It's Nightmare Frame here with a new video taking a look at Monster Hunter World and my perspective on the game, giving you a review with some pros and cons and what I did to make myself enjoy the game and how it hooked me by the balls. For one, I'm a gameplay first type of guy. And as a game, you need to have both a good sense of story with that gameplay to make me care about both. And Monster Hunter's story wasn't it. It's absolute doo-doo water. So I mainly focused on the gameplay aspect of it. Here's the one thing I found about streaming Monster Hunter. There's a lot of know-it-alls, purists, and cringelords who think they're helping, but they're just being annoying and ruining the experience. Just like any other video game community, it will have weirdos and normal people. Oh, and weirdos who think they're normal. Take note, guys. Let people who paid for the game play how they want, experience things how they want, make mistakes, look like a fool, because that's how you learn. I love that approach when I play any video game. And if that person is lost and asks for help, then that's when you help. Reason I'm saying this is because my weapon choice was the Charge Blade, and I had so many people criticizing my weapon choice, saying, "Oh, it's bad. It's stupid. You're new. Pick something easier. What the hell are you doing? It's a difficult weapon. You're going to have a hard time. You're making a mistake." I have one phrase for all those people. Shut up. And this is my weapon stat usage. Charge Blade only. So suck it. Of course, I permaban anyone in my chat who nags in backseats. So it was actually better after I got rid of those people. If I can't play what looks cool and what I think is enjoyable, then I won't enjoy the game. But yeah, I was new and still learning the combat, didn't know how to use the weapon, and of course, people were suggesting I go to the training area to test my weapon and learn the combos. I told them to shut it as well, and learned all that stuff by pressing buttons and playing the game naturally. I learned about Savage X, Shield Charge, Overcharging, Elemental Discharge, and the reds to go back into easily filled files, easily maintaining Savage X for a long time, quick spamming combos, guard points, and even some slick slides. All of that, and also I was consuming a lot of Charge Blade solo runs like Fatalis and Electreon. I learned a lot of cool tips by just observing and watching. So this is an advice to those weird backseater Andys looking to take over anyone's game. I want you to look at it in a different way. If the person is new, has no idea about the game or the weapons, and asks for suggestions, then you can swoop in to save the day. But if the individual is set and has a solid idea of what they want to play, let them do it. So when I booted up the game, I did a speedrun of the character creation, ready for combat, and noticed one thing: I couldn't skip the cutscene. I immediately Alt F4'd, installed a mod to skip the cutscenes. This has to be by far the best mod for the game. Why can't you skip cutscenes, Capcom? Come on. And this is where I start talking about pros and cons about the game, and how most of the cons are fixed through modding. And I'll start off with the cons because the list isn't too long, and if I only talk about pros, I'll just be glazing at this point. There's one thing I thought would piss people off if I said it, but everyone just responded with a resounding, "Yeah, we know, we hate it too." The UI is absolute garbage. A lot of things do not make sense or is explained properly. This is mostly to do with it being a Japanese game. Most Japanese games have horrible UI and menu navigation, and that is very apparent in this game. You need to access a menu within a menu to see details of something that could have been shown on the first click, but that info isn't complete, so you need another window to display details of the second thing to then understand the first thing. Why do this? Of course, I installed more mods to explain what the items actually do with proper descriptions and display duration of those buffs, enemy weaknesses, and what the food buffs actually do without opening a new window. I was like, what the hell is Feline Moxie? Here's another thing. There isn't a buyback feature in the shop, so when you accidentally sell something, it's gone. You can't do anything about it. However, you can return to the title screen without saving, but then you lose progress of whatever you just did. Another thing was picking up quests from NPCs. There isn't a quest log. I said this on stream, and there are a few people who didn't get it and just said, go to the quest boards, you'll see all the quests. Let me explain a quest log from an RPG/MMO player's point of view. You pick up a quest from an NPC. The log is a window that shows who gave you that quest, alongside other details, especially having it as a priority to easily track it, so you can come back and do certain quests whenever you feel like it, and know who exactly to hand it back to. So yeah, navigation through this game UI is a nightmare. So that's con number one, the UI. Con number two, annoying camera, visual clutter, and hitboxes. All of these in one pile because they coexist. So there are certain monsters who completely take over the entire screen. Not as big as your mom, but quite big. And when fighting, you can't really see your character. So I was alerted to an option to give you a silhouette if the monster blocks your character. But it's not that great. If it had a stroke outline with the silhouette, then maybe it would have better clarity. Especially with so much visual clutter from your weapons, monster effects, and if you're playing with teammates, well, good luck. There are some mods to tone down the weapon critical effects, remove blur from the monster's roar, remove or tone down the bloom, also an FOV increase, and that made it a bit easier on the eyes. Do you see now, like how most of the bad stuff is fixed through mods? Yeah. So hopefully Capcom is aware and taking notes on these things for Monster Hunter Wilds. Anyway, still can't do anything about certain monsters and janky hitboxes, because how you think some attacks might hit you but they don't, and how some random walk that you're clearly out of the way of hits you. Oh yeah, especially when a monster is just aimlessly running towards a wall and you're on the side but still take constant damage and are left confused on what actually hit you. Yeah, that's what I mean by janky hitboxes. And then the next part is mostly a me thing, but I hate this so much, especially in any video game. The constant micro-managing. In Monster Hunter, making sure you have all your potions, drugs, traps, etc. topped up. Don't forget to eat before you go on a hunt. And in a cold area, drink some hot cocoa. Hot area? Drink some ice cold lemonade. Either micromanage or have armor that negates those effects. I understand this is part of the game and makes it what it is, but again, as I said, this is a me thing. I personally feel that if you come back from a hunt and you used your consumables in your item pouch, it should automatically be topped up from your storage. And here's the one thing that got me. If you go on a hunt and forget to switch your loadout, your actual build, well, you gotta leave that quest or go back into the tent and switch out just a little bit, especially when it comes to certain jewels. So there's a mod to add the item box at every camp, so you can swap your loadouts, fix all your jewels, and prepare for the encounter at hand, especially for hunting multiple monsters in that one expedition, and you have a build for specific monster types. It feels so good to just go to the camp, swap onto a build, and be ready for the fight without having to go back to HQ. Now, I said this on stream and people got upset, and it's something that I thought was normal, and that is having a character menu that you can access at any time, showing you what you have equipped, stats, etc., and the option to swap between saved loadouts. I thought that was a basic feature in any RPG, but then there were people who said it would be hard because the hunters have to be carrying all the different weapons and armor with them, so it won't make sense. And I was like, bro, it's a video game. We're hunting monsters with giant greatswords. Like, what? And of course, jewels to remove annoyances. Annoying things like staggers from roars, ground shakes, hot drinks, cool drinks, weapon sheathing speed, all fixed with jewels. I personally don't like that, especially when the developer adds weird mechanics just so they can be fixed with jewels to negate the annoyance. But yeah, that's just my take on things. Tell me what you think about the cons and what ways do you think I went about it. Alright, now that we're done with the cons of the game, and one of those cons was a me thing, let's go to the glazing portion of this video. The one thing that actually interested me a lot in this game was fighting giant monsters. Not your mom, I'm talking about monsters in the game. With various unique weapons. It feels like a mix of Shadow of the Colossus and Dragon's Dogma 2. That's what Monster Hunter World feels like. You're a small human, wielding sometimes a massive weapon twice your size, fighting monsters 4 to 6 times your size, where you have to watch and learn patterns, get the right timing to attack while also making sure you have the appropriate window to attack. Then there are really shit fights like Kushala, Rajang, and Kirin. I absolutely despise those bosses with every fiber of my being, especially that monkey. I hate him. Bosses that just run around all day and leave behind stupid AoEs that completely stop you from attacking does annoy me. Now, of course, Monster Hunter is nothing without its combat, and oh boy, the combat is the best part about this game. The weapon feels so damn good, fluid, light, and heavy when it needs to. Everything feels raw, and there's power behind every strike. Until you have to deal with weapon sheathing. I still find that to be a very dumb mechanic. I don't know about you, but that's just one thing that hurts the combat for me in this game. The constant back and forth between sheathing your weapon just so you can pick something up. Oh yeah, and here, especially when you stagger the monster as a melee unit, you would have to stop your combat, sheath your weapon to give you better speed, or clutch claw to close the distance, and that does disrupt the flow of combat. This isn't the case with every other weapon, as some have really good gap closers. I'm just speaking on behalf of my weapon. The other thing about the combat is when you're playing with allies, they can stagger you. It does play into the combat because let's say you get stunned, paralyzed, slept, or any sort of crowd control. Your teammates can get you out of it by hitting you. And there's also player launching, so you can send people flying into the air to get an advantage on the monster, so you can mount them. As there's so much going on within the combat of this game, everything within a 3-dimensional space is your playground, like utilizing Clutch Claw Slinger to mount monsters, damage to weaken them, or shoot them into a wall, knocking them down, destroy pieces of crystals and rocks just to disrupt the monsters. It's so damn good. But yeah, going back to the players staggering each other, that can be really annoying as they can interrupt your combos or even completely take you out of the fight. I find that they do need to balance this out a bit more. And of course, the player-to-player staggering can be negated with a jewel. Monster Hunter is not only known for its monsters, but its roster of weapons. All have their own unique mechanic and playstyle, and some will have better advantage against certain monsters, but no weapon is inferior to the other. I can't speak too in depth on other weapons, but I can speak about the charge blade, the best weapon in the game. Imagine using anything else. But having that sword and shield in your hands. Now, I know there's a sword and shield, but when I saw that, I was like, that's not a sword and shield. That's a knife and a frisbee. Now, the charge blade, it's just something different. It's a sword and a shield that transforms into an axe. No, I want you to think about it. You put your sword into the shield, expand it, and have the shield rotate and turn into an axe. I mean, whoever thought of that is a genius, and this weapon is just so damn good to use, especially when you turn to the Savage Axe and that shield starts rotating like a saw, and you're essentially sawing down monster parts. It's crazy good. I feel the next best part about this game is also the build and theory crafting, and the rewarding gameplay loop. Kill monsters, get rewards to get better gear, to challenge stronger monsters is so satisfying. I myself already found this addictive. But I would have to say, Monster Hunter in co-op is way more fun. 2-manning to a full squad is the sweet spot. The combos you can pull off, as well as certain synergies between 2 weapon types, or when 2 weapons of the same type pull off a move in unison. Ah! Yo, babe, that was cool! Yo, we did it together, that was awesome! For a game that came out in 2018, and me, who just randomly got into this game, I would say there's a decent amount of content to do. Some missions are cringe, especially with the monsters you don't want to encounter, but that's like in every video game. I feel like there should be a Monster Hunter MMO, especially when I encountered sieges with Safi'jiiva and Kulvataroth. I want more of that. I am still progressing, getting newer gear, getting my ass handed to me by a few monsters, trying my best to learn their patterns, raging and malding in the process. If you ever come to my stream and hear me malding and calling it a stupid game, well, yeah, I'm just malding at that point. The progression does feel natural, and your time is well spent until you start farming for jewels and guiding lands. Especially those bones. Yeah, those are dumb. I'm still missing so many good jewels that suit my build, so I'm coping with the ones I have. But yeah, I did feel a power spike when I got my fully upgraded weapon with augments, as well as my first armor set to level 20. And there were some times I did make a mistake with some armor pieces where I ended up crafting the wrong one. But that's the good thing as well. You make mistakes, learn from it, go back to the grind, and in the process, you do end up getting better gear. And again, for a 2018 game, the scenery and visuals are quite breathtaking, especially the Coral Highlands, by far my favorite area. Think of every segment of these maps as a battle arena for you and the monsters. There are consumable and pieces of environment placed in various parts of the arena for you to utilize to give you a fighting chance against certain monsters. Now, not every place is a good place to fight a monster. Narrow and tight spaces are always a big no-no, so try to use the environments to your advantage to control the battlefield, because there are things that can be very unpredictable, like a random monster coming in to ruin the hunt, or even sometimes help you out. There are times where I really hate when a random monster comes in, where you're focused on one fight and some doofus comes behind you and starts screaming and stuns you with his stupid roar. And now the monster you're fighting sees you, it's like, oh, you're not moving. Bah! Smacks you in the face. Yeah, I didn't like that. Like, there was a fight, unfortunately not recorded, as I was playing on my own time, where I was at a Rathian nest and smashed its face into a wall, which then collapsed to have a massive flood sending that Rathian off the cliffside to then kill it. I was totally impressed, and that's when I started investigating more and more parts of the map to see what other funny things I could do. But not only pay attention to the environments, but the actual monsters themselves, because you could determine a monster's mechanics and attacks based on the monster's design. They all feel organic and like actual monsters you would encounter if you lived in such a world. Rule of thumb, big head or horns, they're always gonna ram into you or smash their face into you. And if you encounter monsters with weird appendages, well, they'll do something funny with it. But not every monster is one-dimensional or repetitive. They do change the further you get into the game, especially with different variants of the monsters, like Raging Brachy, Stygian Zinogre, or even that dumb monkey I hate so much. Except for reskinned Rathians, I feel like those are just elite units rather than bosses at this point. The one thing I didn't like at first was when monsters take enough damage, they ran away in desperate attempt for survival. Again, I really did find that annoying, but it did make sense the more I played, because now both of you get to have a breather to set yourself up again, restock, and prepare for the next encounter. It's like a phase 2 in a boss fight, but with some breathing room. Of course, re-engaging the monster will be slightly different, as the monster could be in an enraged state, their attacks get unpredictable, or even access to newer attacks, especially when they lose their tail or horns. The monsters will adapt and start doing newer attacks to compensate. Again, it just feels so natural and organic, as it's a seamless experience from one section to the other. But after playing the game for about 80 hours, I still have so much more to do. I gotta farm better gear, jewels, kill more and stronger monsters as I'm gearing up and prepping for Fatalis. I'm definitely not ready for that yet, but I do have access to that quest. I also want to get as much content done in this Monster Hunter game, so I'll be ready for Monster Hunter Wilds coming out in 2025. But anyway, folks, that has been it from this video. I do hope you've enjoyed and learned something from it. And if you did, please feel free to leave a like, share, and subscribe. For more content, streams, and so much more, please do refer to the description. Thanks for watching, and as always, a peace. Bye-bye now.